and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today, as you can tell, we've left the studio and we're in a really unique location. My guest today is Mike Cobb from the Hampton History Museum. And Mike is going to tell us all about the history of Fort Wool and also how you can get out here and enjoy this amazing place. Thank you. I would say welcome, but you need to welcome me to your island here.
Robin, welcome to Fort Wool Island. We're so good to have you here. What a beautiful day on the Hampton Roads Harbor.
It is perfect, and I can't believe I've never been out here. This is a hidden gem.
It's an island of mystique and an island of history. Fort Wool was built as a companion fort to Fort Monroe. They were built together, situated right at the entrance to Hampton Roads Harbor to prevent British ships from entering Hampton Roads and attacking the city along the waterways, Norfolk and Portsmouth and Hampton, and up the James River to Richmond. So these two forts were important. They both were started in 1819.
Right after the War of 1812, when the British came through the harbor, then we decided to make sure that that didn't happen again, right?
The British came in and sacked our towns and did a lot of damage, so after that war, we sealed the harbor up with these two fortifications. Fort Monroe, as you know, is the largest fort of its kind in the world, 63 acres. It was built at Old Point Comfort on the mainland, but they needed another fort, a companion fort, which was built almost exactly a mile away out here in the water. Now, Robin, there was no island here. It was just a shoal about 17 feet deep, the Willoughby Shoal, shallow water.
Really?
And the idea was to have these two forts as bookends. Any boats coming in between them would suffer a withering fire. So 1819 construction starts. By 1834, Fort Monroe is virtually completed. The island fort, originally named Fort Calhoun after John C. Calhoun, then Secretary of War, was more difficult because you had to build the island.
You had to build the island first.
The rocks.
Holy cow.
The rocks came from the mouth of the Susquehanna River near Port Deposit, also from the Potomac River near Georgetown. So these sailors would load these big, huge boulders, 2 or 3 tons apiece, in their flat-bottom workboats and sail them down to Hampton Roads to this place. And they started dumping these rocks into the water, and they pushed them over and splashed. They went down. Now this is 1819. It wasn't until the 1820s, Robin, that you had an island of granite, about 5 acres in area, and there it's set, this magnificent island of stone. What happens next? Well, a fortification is built, designed by a French engineer named Simon Bernard. The idea was to build 4 tiers of firepower, 3 tiers of casemates. That's simply a room within a wall to house a cannon. Then a barbette on top of that. This fort, Fort Calhoun, would have mounted 232 cannon and a garrison of over 1,000 men.
You're kidding.
It's a magnificent fortification, very different from Fort Monroe.
Yeah.
Well, the island is built. They built structures out here for the men to work. One is an officer's quarters for the West Point trained engineers to direct the work. We have laborers, we have brick masons, we have stone masons, we have blacksmiths. All these people are on this very small island to build this fort. Well, September 17, 1827, the fort is dedicated. General Jacob Brown walks out here, hero of War of 1812. Dignitaries are assembled, and he makes a speech on this very ground. And he says, this fort is a symbol of America's determination to resist aggression from Europe. He lays the cornerstone, cannons fired, the American flag raised, Star-Spangled Banner rose, gunfire, all kind of commotion went on, and the soldiers marched off to Fort Monroe. I'm sure got roaring drunk.
Gotta celebrate.
Nothing changes. And at that point, everything is different, because then the workers, the engineers, go to work. From the cornerstone, about a year later, they had the first course of casemates all the way around the island. Then they start on the second. And they find, much to the dismay, that this artificial island of stone simply cannot hold the weight of the fort. All work stops until 1858, but during that time, Robin, during that time, what we call the settling period, the President of the United States, the 7th President of the United States, Andrew Jackson, comes here. And he becomes captivated with this place. His beloved wife, Rachel, has passed away. His home in Tennessee is burned to Hermitage. So he comes here and he stays here for months on time, and he runs America from this island. He was one of the most popular presidents we ever had. People voted for him years after he was dead, and they named the age of his presidency the Age of Jackson. That's how important he was. But what he did, he discussed the Peggy Eaton affair. This is a great social scandal involving one of his cabinet members and his wife. Great scandal. Also, the nullification crisis, the seeds for civil war were sown partially here in the 1830s before the actual war came. This is between South Carolina, who wanted to nullify all federal law within its state and succeed in the federal government. Jackson is a nationalist. He wants to hold the state in the Union. Ironically, the man who's moving this is John C. Calhoun. This fort is named after. Jackson rails against Calhoun, threatens to hang him, threatens to send an army to South Carolina. All this is partially acted out here. Cooler heads prevail and the war is averted. But the same issues that would bring war in the 1860s were there in the 1830s. And that rehearsal for Civil War partially happened here. Also, the sorrowful time in our history, the removal of the American Indians, that was discussed here too.
So much of what was going on out in the West then.
Yes,
yeah.
and Andrew Jackson analyzed that ideology here, and also the annexation of Texas was argued from this point. And very importantly, in this day we're very concerned about economics, but the biggest economic crisis of that day was the Great Bank War. The northern interest wanted to have the money in large banks to the northeast. Jackson and others wanted to distribute federal money through smaller banks. This was a major crisis and a big thing. And Jackson stood on this island, and he formed a lot of his policy here. And he once said, "As long as these waves rise and fall and touch these rocks, I will not change my mind on this issue." He also had a hut, and this hut was nearby, and he'd go up there by himself with a telescope and look over the horizon of the water. And from there, he thought about what he would do as president. He also thought about his beloved wife, Rachel, who had passed away.
So Mike, how do people get here in that era? I mean, he's negotiating with congressmen and people in Washington, D.C., and he's out here on this island by himself. Well, not by himself, he's got a staff. How do they get here?
Boat under sail and steam. He brings his family here and his entourage here, and he goes swimming, Robin, in the water. It wouldn't be a bad day to do that either, would it not?
This is really an amazing place. So tell me, who owns this? How is it operated? How do I get here?
It's owned by the state of Virginia.
So once it wasn't an Army base anymore, it went to the state.
When the Army abandoned the fort, which it did in 1967.
That late, really?
Yes, it reverted back to the state of Virginia, and the city of Hampton leases it from the state. And since 1984, we have managed this as an historic attraction. Senator John Warner dedicated the fort on that great day back in the 80s, and we have operated ever since. We have rangers out here who give tours and maintain the island, cut the grass, keep things up.
Putting up the flag was a big deal, I remember. The money to keep the flag lit and to have that great big flag out here was important to a lot of people in Hampton and all of Hampton Roads.
The flag was a great gift. The idea is when ships come into the harbor, they see this flag and they're welcomed to Hampton Roads Harbor. It's a symbol of American freedom, and it's very, very significant that flag is on this island, because this fort and Fort Monroe were built in order to maintain American freedom from European powers. So Fort Monroe and Fort Wool are symbols of American democracy, and that flag certainly symbolizes that magnificently.
So how many people come out to this fort every year, month, whatever numbers you keep?
Seasonal. We're here in the spring, in the fall, in the summer, and we get about 10,000–15,000 people come here on the Miss Hampton tour boat. If you're out boating on Hampton Roads, though, and you want to bring your family, you can come here. There's no charge for private boats. Have a picnic, walk the grounds.
Kind of sunrise to sunset, same hours
sunrise
as most city parks?
Yeah, 9 to 5 during our season, and people are welcome here. This is a unique place. It's in the middle of Hampton Roads, and Fort Wool is really in many ways the center of Hampton Roads, and one day will be a great attraction here.
So what do you, speaking of one day, let's look in the crystal ball and think about what might be able to be done here in the future. What do you foresee?
Much. Reconstruct the buildings from the past, the officers' quarters from the 19th century, World War II barracks, mess hall, other buildings, put some artillery out here. We're already putting our historical markers out so that people can come and walk through the structures that the soldiers once occupied, get an idea of what it was like to be a soldier in that time. The World War II soldiers still come back, and we interview them and talk to them, and they tell us great stories about the island. So in many ways, Fort Wool is a living place for history.
Wow, it really is. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up. Is there something else you wanted to add before I close?
is so magnificent. To come out here to this island and share the excitement of Fort Wool and stand on the ramparts and look at the vista of Hampton Roads Harbor out into Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. It's a sight and a feel you never forget. Fort Wool, the great experience.
It is amazing, and thank you so much. I hope, sometimes we live in our hometown and we forget to be tourists, and somebody comes to visit, maybe we think about a cruise, but this is an amazing thing for a staycation or a day or a family to do at home. I just, I'm going to come back out here. This is really cool. It's a different feel, and it's so unpopulated. I mean, the 27 people that went on our tour boat are the only people here. And it's wonderful.
May we all be tourists.
Yes, we should. And I hope you will be too. We've taken you to Fort Wool, and you get a look at it from home, from the TV screen, but I hope you will come out and visit it because it is truly amazing in person. Thank you for joining us.